Hey guys, welcome back. This is the, I believe, third or fourth episode to the series where I basically show and talk a little bit about the forgotten minis of Citadel and miniatures I'm planning to use for all of my crazy projects and games. I'm probably gonna have to check what number this will be, as the original videos were meant just to be random videos, but I do like this series as I realized I do collect a lot of Oldhammer, and growing up I actually spent a lot of time researching the miniatures slash I've always wanted them. So I prefer these over the new miniatures. Nothing against modern GW sculpting or any other miniature line. I just have very fond memory and appreciation for the older sculpts. Before I continue, guys, I want to say thank you to everyone who has been supporting the change. I know I haven't done much Warhammer the Old World, but I've been really enjoying the hobby. And I know I made already two announcements about my membership tiers. Long story short, I will be making specific videos just for members, like certain tutorials, as a thank you for allowing me to spend more time into a hobby I really do love. So let's jump straight into the miniatures themselves. I think we'll start with a miniature that I really don't think many know. Citadel got the right for the, I think, Eternal Champions range of miniatures. And in 1986, 1987, they made the Pan Tang line of miniatures. And one of them is this beautiful tiger. I wish I had the second pose. The mouth is open and it looks so beautiful. I think this miniature is such I'm gonna reiterate the words all the time, but it's beautiful, it's simple, it's lovely, and the size of it is pretty substantial. If I can look around, give me 1 second. I guess this is a 25 by 50 millimeter base. It fits quite comfortably. So for those who like to play, let's say, Ogre Kingdoms, or maybe even some orcs and goblin players, these miniatures look great. I would say a little bit hard to come by, but not out of the ordinary. And I'd say price rise. If you pay, sorry about that, more than, I want to say, 20 to 30 bucks, a little bit too pricey for me. But this is just pose one. The second pose, the face is like yelling and roaring, which is really cool. So this is the Tang Tiger from Citadel, and I will be painting this for my D&D games, mainly for like a displacer beast. That does involve adding some tentacles on him, so I'll be very careful as this is the only miniature I have of it. Moving along, I'm going to show you a miniature that I'm very fond of. This is actually the very first Zoat Citadel produced. I know everyone's aware of the Rogue Trader Zoats because Midwinter Minis and other people have been painting them a lot more. And even the Fantasy Zoat is more common, I would say. He's quite large and has a lot more scales. But this is the first in rendition of the Zoat, and it is, I would consider this a little bit harder to come by. It's much smaller than the one everyone is aware of, and he actually is quite different. He doesn't have as many scales on the body, and I'd say you can look at this, the way they sculpted the scales is more organized and going down, and I'd even venture to say the head of the weapon is quite distinct. I'm going to say this is the best looking Zoat. I know that might cause some differing opinions, but he does look better than the Rogue Trader Zoat. I am very fond of the Rogue Trader Zoats, but he is so distinct. And if you look really carefully, they really textured the skin. I'd say a lot more washes and dry brushing should be done to really get the most out of the model. And this one, I'm very fortunate for how much I paid, but I've seen this guy go from 50 to over $100 just because this is the first edition of the Zoat, and it only came in this one pose. So if you really love the Zoat, I would highly encourage you to come, or go look through eBay or Facebook Marketplace. Unfortunately, I really tried to strip him. Again, I don't know what they used. This guy sat in my LA's totally awesome for about a week, and no matter what I did, this green stuff won't pop off. But I do think it's enough where I'm comfortable to paint. And again, this model I will not for nostalgia's sake. It is actually very well sculpted. I like the pose. He is again that two-dimensional pose when they had to make the molds, but it really works well and very excited to paint this guy. Not sure how I'll use him in games of Otherworld or D&D, just because this guy is a Warhammer Fantasy Games Workshop designed creature, so I'll just have to, I guess, create a set of rules that fit the legacy and the uniqueness of this miniature. Up next is a very cool miniature. It is the Talisman 2nd Edition Chaos Warrior. This model was created for the Talisman The Adventure expansion, and it was, I believe, 1988 or 87. And he is quite large, actually. Let me grab. This is a Talisman, I think, Highlander or Swordsman. He is quite tall, but the Chaos Warrior is very robust and chunky. And don't forget, like, he's on a base, so this guy looks taller. But this Chaos Warrior really is cool. He definitely is more cartoony compared to the Realm of Chaos ones. But something about him, he just has such a classic 80s, you know, Saturday morning villain look. And really excited to paint him up just because maybe it's the pose, maybe it's the pauldrons. Something about him is very distinct, and I wish I had the player card on me. The way they painted the talisman of Chaos Warrior is really unique. The metal has like very tiny yellow triangles, I'd say markings are going across the visor. So I will be painting this model just like the artwork. That's what I've been doing for all of the talisman miniatures, and very excited to use him as I think he will fit in any game I play for fantasy skirmish games. Moving along, I'm going to show you the rust monster. I already showcased this miniature in my painting update, the first one, but let me see if I can grab everything. So he comes in 3 pieces. I think that's good to know. And just like if you know the old Fiend of Slaanesh from Citadel, the first edition ones from the Realm of Chaos, they had the legs like this with the slot bases, and you're supposed to connect it to, of course, the pegs that are open. It is very difficult. What I've been doing for my rust monsters, or anything with slots like this, I cut, let me see, I cut the middle, so now the legs are free, and then I glue them separately, and I gently bend the legs to fit to the base. If you try to glue these straight to the open pegs, the slots won't fit in any slot base, and the model will be flaring out, if that makes sense. So if you do manage to get some rust monsters or anything of the 80s of Citadel that had these slot legs, it is much easier just to chop the slots in half and then attempt to glue it. But the rust monster, as I showed you with the painting video, it has a lot of great texture, and I'd say I'm still not too happy I painted mine blue for the underbelly, but if you look at him, really lovely. And unfortunately, I believe the rust monster came in quote unquote 2 sculpts, basically 2 in a blister. I have yet to see a difference in them. Maybe it's subtle differences like the antenna, or maybe a few of the scales on his back are different, but I don't see a difference. The fun thing about these models, the 2 antenna that basically rust the weapons of adventurers, you can actually bend them like very slightly. And that's what I did. So like that. Just be careful, as I do see on the secondhand market or on eBay, when you buy these miniatures, a lot of bits are missing where the 2 antenna might be broken, or the propeller tail tip thing is gone. So if that is the case, I would not pay more than $30. If it's a damaged rust monster, definitely negotiate and haggle. If it's complete, new and blister, you're going to pay a bit more premium as the blister itself is quite sought after for the advanced Dungeons and Dragon. So to pay for two rust monsters, I'd say 30 bucks a piece for 60 bucks for two seems reasonable. If he is damaged, please do not pay that price, as it is quite difficult to, I'd say, remedy, especially if this propeller is broken, you can kind of get away and figure something out. If the two classic, tendrils are gone, it's gonna be a pain. So here's the Citadel Rust monster. I hope you guys can try to hunt some of these down for yourself, as really fun to paint. And when you see him, he's so distinct. You can use him for any game, like Frostgrave, um, maybe even some games of Strange Aeons. He looks so alien. He'd fit perfectly in a Lovecraft setting. So that's him. Then let's go to the miniatures I love so much are the Citadel Sturges. Again, you've seen these from my painting video, and I am surprised how hard it is to get your hands on these little guys. So Citadel created these for advanced Dungeons and Dragons, again in the 1987, 1986, and the blisters came with four. So there are only four different poses. I believe I managed to get all four here. As I mentioned previously, I have a lot more Sturges laying around. And again, I'm very fortunate. I got an amazing deal for these models. But you could buy these Sturges from Otherworld miniatures. They are slightly different. The Citadel ones, I did a comparison, have a much more humanoid, goblin, gnomey dwarf face. So it's very like jolly, very cute. But then the Otherworld fantasy, when they sculpted the Sturges in this similar vein, the face is a lot more mosquito-like, where like the nose is sharper. What I mean by that is, if we grab the guy off screen, his nose is more like rounded, kind of cute. I am so sorry, it's not focusing. And one detail I liked was, if you look underneath, the Sturges have little forearms, actually, and that's how they hold on to their victims before they stab them with the nose. So really cool detail. And I'd say a blister, I've seen a new and blister for four of them go for 50 bucks. I have also seen people try to sell a Sturge by itself for about 10 bucks. It seems a bit pricey, but the model is quite big. Again, I think you've seen him when I've painted it on that painting video. It's quite substantially big. I'd say goblin size. So 10 to 12 USD seems reasonable. If you buy a blister, if they charge 50 bucks, I wouldn't complain too much. If they try to charge, honestly, 32 bucks for like one, don't do it. If you really, really want it, go for it. But I think some people do overcharge for these miniatures. But it's a shame, because I do think they're very beautiful, and I'm fortunate I own so many. Moving along, this is a Citadel Fighter. I forgot his name. I wrote it down and I completely forgot. And when I got this guy, his tab was completely scratched off. But he was made in the late 80s. And I like him because he has like maybe like a Captain America vibe, with like the winged helmet, the star insignia on it, and a lot of fun detail. Very simple pose, which I always adore. The older Citadel miniatures, they have enough detail so when you paint them, it's very fun, but not enough that you get annoyed and want to take a break. And I just prefer the poses too. Again, very biased coming from me, so take my words with a grain of salt. But lovely miniature. I do have a second one that came in a lot. I bought the lot for the other half of it, so I am going to sell one of them. These guys shouldn't be too pricey. I'd say you're looking, depending on the state of the miniature, if it's very clean looking, unpainted, maybe 14 to 20 bucks, pretty reasonable. And the last two miniatures are I think they're called, the range was from 1987 from Citadel. I think it's the Heroic Legends of the Known World. So this guy is Lord Aquila, and looks completely badass. The armor with all of the I don't know how to describe the armor. It looks like chainmail, but it's covered in these circle plates, and he's huge. Actually, I'd say to a human miniature, they'd stand comfortably to like the bottom of the visor, but great detail, a lot of character too. I think the pose is menacing. Of course, proportions are the old hammer proportions, and the helmet's very ornate. And I always love the classical texture they do for their cape. So this is the Lord Aquila. I'd say buying most of the range of the heroic figures of the known world, a whole set could go for, I'd say, 80 to 90 plus US dollars. Each figure, you could pay 12 to 18, depending on which figure it is. And then here is, I believe, he's called Wolf, but I've also seen him called Ulrich Erlichson, so I am not sure which one it's supposed to be, but the tab says Wolf, and then I believe on one of the websites of Lost Minis, it's a slightly different name. But I do love his amazing pose again, very commanding. And all of the characters in that set, there's 8 of them. One of them is Manfred, one of them is Lord Moonduke, I think. They all have amazing helmets, and if you're a fan of, I'd say, the Empire or even Bretonia and Warriors of Chaos, these models I think would fit quite well into your ranks. For the Warriors of Chaos, you would have to do an Oldhammer themed army, as they do not stand well against the current plastics, but they would fit in to that realm of Chaos era of every Chaos Warrior as an individual and quite unique. And I'd say these two especially fit that Zinchian feel, but love the detail of the helmet. The pose is simply amazing. And again, the detail, it fits exactly everything I want in an old miniature. And again, these miniatures paying 12 to 18 bucks, very reasonable priced. And honestly, not out of the realm of hard to find. I feel like I do see them quite frequently on eBay and Facebook Marketplace. But I hope you guys enjoyed this very quick, I guess, historical look into some Citadel miniatures. I plan to do a lot more, as I probably have upwards of 400 more figures to go through, and it's nice to condense things into smaller videos and to hopefully get a more accurate of a close-up feel of the miniatures. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm planning to paint these for my games of Otherworld and potentially Descent, the board game. But another video coming for a painting update this week. I got a lot more done, and I hope you guys had a safe weekend or have a fun week.